May the 4th be with you. What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Lunch Table Podcast. This will be our final revisited for the Star Wars saga. In this video, we will be discussing the sequel trilogy and everything we liked and didn't like about it. So, without further ado, Akram, give us your thoughts.
Yeah, I think the soul is missing in this sequel trilogy. It lacked something. In a way, it's kind of like synthetic crab meat, if you will. It's not the real thing, you know? And they tried to get the magic going, but I think it probably Disney interfered too much. And also, there was such a mess with the directors, so many rumors and you know, different ideas that had to be scrapped because different directions and whatnot. It was kind of a mess, but there were some really cool moments.
Nonetheless, yeah. I've said my piece about the sequels, right? I have a love-hate relationship. I don't think they were what I expected them to be. Maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. A lot of people it's a very divisive trilogy. Like I said in the original trilogy revisit, I think they tried to reinvent the wheel, right? I think Return of the Jedi was perfect. Force Awakens, I actually liked. I'm not gonna. That's my hot take. I did like Force Awakens, and I think a lot of people actually did enjoy Force Awakens when it first came out, right? Because it's like you didn't know what to expect. It's like how many years after the originals and the prequels, you thought coming into this movie it's gonna be fresh and exciting. I remember the trailer. Everybody got so hyped when they watched the first trailer for Force Awakens. We saw Kylo Ren's lightsaber, right? We saw all these different things. BB-8. You know, Rey, Finn, all these new stormtroopers. It looked good on paper, and then we watched it, and it was like New Hope rehash. I don't know. And like, did we need another Death Star really? Like, could you not have done something else with that? Kylo, for the most part, I think Kylo I really enjoyed him more in Rise of Skywalker than the first two of the sequel trilogy. And then they kind of like threw him away. Finn, I think, was so dirtily done. I mean, I already know what John Boyega said, you know, regarding Disney and everything. I think they could have went so much more with the potential for his character. And Rey, I mean, I don't know. She kind of not disappointed me, but I feel like I just wanted more out of her character than just like, like finding out who her parentage were, right? Because then it's like, then it's just another original trilogy where Luke has to find out that Darth Vader is his father, right? I hate the whole lineage thing now that they do with Star Wars. It's like everybody has to be related to like somebody's like aunt is like the warlord of this planet or some shit.
Yeah, it feels.
What are your thoughts?
It feels kind of like as if Vought from The Boys tried to bring up like a movie franchise again. It does feel very artificial. It feels like maybe they tried to play it safe with Force Awakens. There were some cool callbacks, and for the most part, the CGI was phenomenal in the sequel trilogy. And they used practical too, so it looks like they're trying to use best of both worlds, and we still see that applied in The Mandalorian and whatnot moving forward. But I mean, Kylo was I thought he was pretty, for me at least, maybe I was naive at the time, but I thought he was like really cool. The lightsaber design too, it was something I'd never seen before, and that did introduce new stuff to, I guess, the Star Wars lore. We've seen some of that at play in Star Wars Rebels. When they went to that old Jedi temple or Sith temple or something like that. Rey, she was okay at first, but they really shoehorned in that she's like
a Palpatine.
Just a Palpatine. Like I could see on paper writing it probably seems better, like, you're going against your nature, you could be better than this. And so, okay, that sounds fine. But the actual application, I think, was kind of lackluster. I must say, the most teary-eyed I felt, though, was when watching the sequel trilogies, because I've seen the beginning title crawl, and I was like, oh, wow, finally, I'm like here. I never, I'm a part of this whole ensemble of people and Star Wars fans that they seen it in person, and it's my first time, and it's something so beautiful.
Right.
And then the Rise of Skywalker, the ending, I felt like it was very cinematic. Didn't do much in sense of metaphors and whatnot. It wasn't like a deep cut, but it was just so epic, kind of like Endgame was, where I really felt for it to the point where like I don't want to rewatch it just because I don't want to encounter that feeling again. But there are some characters like Poe Dameron. I thought he was really cool. I do like the redesigns. I think Finn, I'm not a huge fan of Finn, to be honest with you. Every time I see Finn, I kind of like want to like pass him, like skip forward. I never was a big fan of Finn, but it was alluded to that he has some force abilities, and maybe we'll see that one day, because there's gonna be like a sequel after this, like 15 years later, they announced. So it's gonna be with Rey. Maybe we'll even see Grogu. We had like some predictions where maybe Grogu one day will like be older or something, that they want to grow him up a little bit. I think what's most notable too, this was around the era where now there's a new canon, so the actual canon. So everything past, all the comics and stuff, that was deemed legendary. So this is the new era, and let me tell you, the new era comics are phenomenal. Like all of the novels, the comics that have been released. No, but like wonderful ideas. It took place, the main comic series, Star Wars, took place after A New Hope. Now, you see, guys, how I'm mentioning so much about the comics and stuff? It's because you need that to give more depth to these sequels. And that is a problem right there, because the sequel should do justice on its own. It should be enough for you. But the fact that I'm mentioning this, that is a lot more alluring and exciting than the actual series itself, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's like drinking whiskey to hold down your food, right? That's one thing I didn't really like about the sequels, is like we needed all these things to justify a lot of the choices that were made, because there were so many different ideas that were poorly communicated between directors and producers. And then there was the misdirection with, like you said, like we thought Finn was going to be the Jedi in the trailer because he had the lightsaber, and then it ended up being Rey. I didn't appreciate that. I actually did want Finn to be like kind of like this rogue stormtrooper that actually like discovered force abilities. Yeah, and then when we got to, so I didn't mind Force Awakens. I thought it was all right. I think it was very ballsy that they killed off Han Solo.
Oh yeah.
I kind of wanted more out of him in the, and that's another thing. Like they killed off basically all the original actors from the original trilogy in this. Like it's literally one per movie. Like Han Solo dies in the first one, Luke dies in the second one, and then Leia dies in the third one. Right?
And C-3PO, I think he goes away. Does he or no?
I think well, they erased his memory, but then they rebooted him or something. Yeah, so it was kind of like a wasted sacrifice. But I think it just had. I think it suffered from the Marvel disease, as I call it. I think it tried to be maybe too family friendly, or too, I don't know, much with the humor. The action. I will admit, there are some scenes that actually blew my mind when I watched it on screen. I think when I saw the scene in was it the Last Jedi, where they actually flew into the starship with the hyperspace thing. I thought that was cool
visually.
Yeah, the Leia scene, I know it gets a lot of hate for it, but I actually didn't mind the Leia scene. I thought that was
so
a cool
cringe.
Yeah, you didn't like
cringe.
It? I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
I spat at the theater screen. I was like,
that's my hot take. Well, think about it. That's like the only time we actually get to see Leia using the Force, right? Other than the time she communicated with Luke, right?
Sure, yeah, I understand that. Well, we do also see, I think, I forgot it was The Last Jedi or The Rise of Skywalker, we do see, which is cool, again, we see like she was training too, so that was cool.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, I didn't mind that. I did like also the tree scene from The Last Jedi with Yoda. I think that was like the best scene in the whole movie.
That was beautiful.
And probably the whole franchise. I kind of wish we would have seen Ben Kenobi too. I don't know how they would have done it. Maybe they could have brought in like a more age, like Ewan McGregor or something. They could have like, made an AI voice of Alec Guinness or something, because it didn't make sense. Like, okay, well, we saw Obi-Wan in Return of the Jedi. Why didn't we see him in the sequels, right? Mm-hmm. Or even Anakin, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Anakin. That's true. Yeah. Well, for the most part, too, I think it feels very. It does feel very because they have to try new things. Because again, this is the sequel after the movie from the 80s, so that's like a lot of catch up, and it's a huge time jump. So I would imagine there's like huge pressure, and they have to keep the ball rolling. So for the most part, I think the visual aesthetics, I think they succeeded. I think it looked really good. The planets too. I think the costuming was really ambitious as well. They used the hell out of Wadi Rum and Jordan too to like film a lot of these scenes. The planets were pretty decent looking. What I love about Star Wars after this new canon that was implemented, we see these planets show up in Battlefront 2 in the story. We see probably Jedi Survivor. There's going to be some elements from the sequels. I mean, Mandalorian also does stuff with Moff Gideon and Snoke or whatever. So yeah, but they did kind of the final movie felt like it was a clash of ideas, and they just wanted to, which, if you think about it, Palpatine is like in every trilogy, and if you think about it like from the outside, oh, that's kind of cool, this guy's back or whatever. But at the same time too, it's like you said a great point, an original thing that the sequels kind of made Darth Vader sacrifice in vain, which I agree. But that being said, there were a lot of characters here that I think were pretty lackluster. Lando's daughter, she was just there. You don't even remember her,
at the last minute. Yeah,
yeah, I forgot all about her. I like the little bromance between Poe and Finn, so that was cool. But everybody else, we have Kerry Russell's character as Zori Bliss. I don't know what the hell was going on with those two.
Shoehorned in.
Yeah, I mean, Kylo Ren, again, he was really cool. I really wish he wasn't bad here. I really wish he wasn't like a fanboy of Darth Vader, because I want to see more of Jedi Kylo Ren. I loved in the final movie where he actually finally held the iconic lightsaber passed down. And that was something, in the way how he fought and stuff. It was a good look. It really looked good. And it is a pity that we don't see much more of Kylo Ren, at least in the comics. But that's the thing. They kind of buried their own grave, because Kylo Ren is just Kylo Ren. I mean, he's never been Solo. He's only been Ben Solo at his younger years. And after that, it's just Kylo Ren. Also, the Knights of Ren was
wasted potential.
I heard that they had more in plan for them. Actually, they did more with the Knights of Ren in the Kylo Ren, I'd say, like prequel series in the comics. Yeah. But that was it. That didn't even make sense how the head of the Knights of Ren had a lightsaber too. They didn't really explain that. That was kind of weird. Luke was, this is where you see the tonal shifts, like the direction. It's like, you have Force Awakens and he's like, this is super epic, and everybody's like, like that. And then in The Last Jedi, he just throws it. And that wasn't meant to be. That was just like a clash of like ideas from the directors. And then that moved on into Rise of Skywalker. And I think this was a good example of when studios get too involved and when people don't listen to each other and try to come together. This was a good example. This was the trilogy where you're not supposed to do that. Like you gotta nail it, and they actually didn't, unfortunately. But there's still potential. I think the way how it ended, as cheesy as it may be and whatnot, there's still potential, and I think that's why they're gonna use Rey, and we may see Finn. I don't know how John Boyega feels about it. There's still potential. There is a finality. Of course, it has to be. I mean, this is the main Star Wars saga. It's kind of sad now that we won't hear John Williams' score anymore, because that's meant just for the Skywalker saga, right? So I think we do need a breath of fresh air. Hopefully, coming forward, we get a really great breath of fresh air. Well, I don't know. Taika Waititi apparently is like in charge of that. So I don't know. After Thor: Love and Thunder, I don't know. I think they're kind of in trouble. I think Disney is kind of in trouble. I don't know if it's like due to politics or something like that. A lot of people are saying that. I think it's a mixture of a lot of things that's going on in Disney HQ. So that is my, yeah.
Yeah. It's a number of things, but I try not to dwell too much on, whose fault it is. I think, like I said, there was just it didn't come together. I think at least with George Lucas, it was under one vision, right? Here it just felt like you said, like too many different studio involvements, too many different ideas into three different. If honestly, if they want to go this route, they should have just made it like an anthology series or something. But it wouldn't have made sense for like a prequel trilogy, right? You want it to be cohesive. They just had too many weird ideas that just didn't make sense, and then too many like continuity errors or just like plots they never followed up with, like the whole how did they find Anakin's lightsaber, right? Like whatever her name is, Maz Kanata, she like gave Rey the lightsaber and then there was a comic I think later
but that's the problem too.
But that's the problem, exactly, that you needed that comic to like anybody that's gonna go into this movie. I mean, probably younger kids, I imagine, but anybody who's older probably is not gonna read the comics, right? So it's like you can't rely on alternative media to tell a story, right? You kind of have to tell it in your own movie, right?
What did you think of their? I think this was the peak of, probably not the peak, to be honest with you. I think, but maybe with toxicity in the Star Wars community. What did you think of Rose Tico's character? Because everyone had a problem with it.
The hate was unwarranted for sure. I think that was. I thought we had got past that with Jar Jar, but apparently not. But that doesn't mean to say that I wasn't a fan of Rose's character. I mean, they set her up to be like this kind of love interest for Finn, and then they just did nothing with it at the end. And she was I always hate that scene where like she saved him at the last minute, and she's like, "No, this isn't how we win, right?" No, that's how you win. You fucking take out that super weapon. That's how they did it in the first two Star Wars movies. I don't know. It kind of felt like I did feel sad that she lost her sister, and that's kind of like how she got. That was kind of like her motivation for this war, was like she was trying to avenge her sister. I think they could have went more with her character. I don't know. There's a lot of forgettable characters in this movie. I wish we'd seen more from like the old man in the first movie.
Oh, Laura Santeca.
Yeah, I think he's in the comics. Correct me
Yeah,
if I'm
yeah,
wrong,
yeah.
But, yeah, but I wish we would have seen more of him. I don't know. It didn't feel like Star Wars to me. It felt like a sci-fi movie, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it. It wanted to be Star Wars, but it just didn't come together as I had hoped for. Maybe I just had too high expectations. Especially coming at word from the sequel era, obviously. So that was a high bar to surpass. But looking back, I think they had a chance to kind of take from Legends what had already been done and just craft it into a good story, but the story just didn't make sense, and it ended on such a disappointing note that it makes me, like you said, like not want to go back and say like, oh yeah, well, I think what I'm trying to say is there aren't enough good moments in these movies for me to go back and watch it, right?
Sure.
Perhaps there, like if I had to nitpick, there's probably some really good moments that I could choose from the sequels, but there aren't enough for me to say like, oh yeah, like let me rewatch the sequels or something, right?
Sure, that's understandable. I can see where you're coming from. I mean, I think they have a lot of cool concepts, but I think they didn't fully utilize them, and and at times I felt like just this one big party, because they invited like a lot of famous people to like play as extras, and it's like, yeah, we're having fun. This is Star Wars. Yeah,
we're gonna put fucking Daniel Craig in a stormtrooper suit.
It was too commercialized. It kind of lacked the heart, and they tried to regain that in the final movie, but they did it wrong. They missed the landing. Yeah, it felt very like we're going to make a riot after this, and we're going to have plenty of merchandise, and we're going to make tons of money.
That's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was. Like, it was a big promotion for Galaxy's Edge and all these toys, right?
Sure, yeah, and that was a big shame. But we did get a lot of spin-offs because they left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. So we got spin-offs for The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, right? Rogue One, Andor. I'm probably missing some stuff coming out in the future, and it looks like since this was like an epic fail, they kind of learned a lesson, I believe, and they even approach animation differently through the storytelling. It's like I think they're crafting something that's very that it means something. It cuts deep with people, except Obi-Wan Kenobi, but it cuts deep with people, and I'm glad to see that direction now. I am really glad. Well, I don't know, because after we reviewed The Mandalorian season 3, I don't know. So I don't know.
I mean, I guess you could say the silver lining of the sequels was that we did get some cool spin-offs. Because I think the first movie that came after that was Rogue One, I believe.
Yeah, Rogue One, then Han Solo. No, it was Rogue One, then Solo. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it was cool that we still had content after that wasn't like animated like the Clone Wars. We actually saw live action stuff after these events of the original trilogy. But I think it's a slow burn for Disney. I think they're kind of learning too slow. That there are certain things that the fans want, and there are certain things that just don't make sense. Yeah, I mean, just look at our Mandalorian reviews. Like the first 2 seasons were good, and then they kind of like fumbled the bag a bit. And ironically, that was Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni product.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do you kind of agree with the people that are saying like the Star Wars franchise needs to like take a break or slow down a bit?
No, because it's its own genre. Then other horror needs to take a break. Then other things need to take a break. It's a big universe. You could, you could make tons of stories out of it. I mean, the Skywalker saga is done. So whatever you do next, I mean, look, we have Jedi Survivor, and then we have other shows. We have the Bad Batch. It doesn't need to take a break. Actually, get competent people. If you get competent people and take accountability, you could make tons of show in 1 year. You can even dedicate a streaming platform to just Star Wars, and everything will be A+. Everything will be good. But it's just, it's time. Writers, you need to respect writers. They're on strike right now, so they need to be well compensated. I think this industry is kind of going downhill with, as Piers Morgan says, the woke virus. I think a lot of things are at play that's a huge detriment to the huge and beautiful franchises that we have. I think, sure, we need to take a deep breath, but how long does a deep breath have to take? Like a year, 2 years, 5 years? I mean, you guys are that fucking stupid. You can't like just have a group of people in one room and say, yeah, this is dumb. All right, brother, thank you. Let's do this. That's it. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of artistic people here, but I think what really connects with people in any genre is how human a story is. And okay, now let's make that epic. So when you make that epic, then it's like a roller coaster ride. But it means something because it's still a human story at the end of the day. They've forgotten this, and I think they streamline it. They make it into, again, like VOT Studios. It kind of seems like that. Don't do that. Disney, you need to really, I know they're watching us right now, so they watch me exclusively though. Sorry, Dylan. Just, take a deep breath, but don't try to emulate what other streaming platforms what they do. I mean, because their shit is bullshit as well. Make human stories that matter. I'm running for president, by the way, in 2024. So vote for me, and
I'll lead 24.
Yeah.
No, well said, man. Yeah, I think I agree. Like, I'm not like Luke. Like, I don't think it's time for the Jedi to end. Like, they do manage to tell a lot of great stories, and I love what they did with some of the spin-off, like Star Wars Visions. I loved. I can't wait to review season 2.
Sure.
Book of Boba Fett. Despite what people say, I did actually enjoy it. Kenobi, it had its faults, but it was still an enjoyable show. Mandalorian, it's its own thing. It's just, we just need to kind of pay attention to the fans, and of course, like as you said, respect the writers and directors, come together, make a craft an idea and let it stew a bit, right? I mean, like, it's a hard industry because we want everything right away. It's like you said, like, how long is too long, right? Like, we covered all these game events where we're waiting for all these games to develop, but it's like, do you want to let it cook a little bit before you release this product that is going to cost millions of dollars and might receive backlash. So for Star Wars, it's like the same idea. It's like you want to really flesh out these stories and kind of not follow what the original trilogy did, but kind of be inspired by what it did, right? Because it, like I said in that Revisited, it didn't feel like a sci-fi movie. It's a mythological idea, right? So maybe look at like different cultures or stories and kind of just like draw from those ideas, and then kind of because I feel like now when we rewatch Star Wars, it's like all about like the Empire or all about the Clone Wars, right? You could draw so many like I still want to see a Old Republic movie, right? It has to be well done, of course, and kind of have to pay homage to the video games, right? Because that was where it came from. But yeah, I would love to see that. I love to see the universe of Star Wars push, as far as it can go.
As the canon did, as well as the comics did, as everything else did. I think the movies live action needs to catch up, and it seems like it's getting there for sure. What is your favorite sequel trilogy movie?
It's like who's my favorite terrorist? I still say Force Awakens. Last Jedi, though, I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of the Snoke thing, but I did like the Praetorian Guard fight with Kylo and Rey. I thought it was interesting seeing like actually like a Jedi and a Sith per se like come together and tag team or something. How about you? What's your favorite?
Well, that's one thing though. The sequels definitely lacked the fighting choreography. Like, and I kind of understand, but come on. Yeah, it's hard to say. I find it hard to say because I actually, some things that I enjoyed from Rise of Skywalker as just looking at it, non-biased. And then at the end, I think about the grand picture, everything coming together. I felt very emotional. I'd say probably The Force Awakens is the better movie. The Last Jedi, they wasted too much time in, what is it called? Canto Bight or something like that. It was like that casino place. Yeah.
Basically Space Atlantic City.
Yeah. There were too many side quests, I think. You're balancing a lot of characters here. But for the most part, I think for sure Force Awakens, I think that was the most impactful. That made so much money in the box office too. Han Solo died. So yeah, for the most part, I think that was the better one. And we got to see old Luke at the end. That was like, whoa, that's like epic, So that was my thing. But everybody, that is our... Revisited for the sequel franchise. So Dylan, why don't you take us away?
Well, that concludes our Revisited series for the Star Wars saga. I hope you guys enjoyed us reviewing each one, and we can't wait to review much more of what Disney has to offer for Star Wars, but thank you so much for all our new subscribers.
Yes,
we can't do without you, so thank you for your support. It's really helping us out, guys. We're growing as a channel every day. And, I love doing all these reviews and revisiteds. And we are planning to get guests eventually. We got some interesting guests on the list. So I can't wait for you guys to see when it happens. But yeah, check us out wherever you listen to your podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor, as well as YouTube. And check us out on our Instagram as well. But may the Force be with you. And until then, thanks for having us.
Force be with you guys. See you.